On June 8, 793 CE, the monks of Lindisfarne watched as strange ships pierced the morning fog. This arrival is often cited as a sudden eruption of violence, yet the roots of this movement reached back centuries. The path to Lindisfarne began with the volcanic winter of 536 CE. This global disaster initiated a 200-year period of internal transformation within Scandinavia, as communities struggled to adapt to a cooling world. Global temperatures dropped, leading to widespread crop failure. The archaeological record shows that Scandinavian settlement density contracted sharply, as famine and hardship forced a massive social reorganization. Those who survived this bottleneck entered the Vendel period. Over the next 2 centuries, Norse society rebuilt itself around a new, hyper-competitive warrior elite who maintained authority through wealth and military prestige. Burials from this era reveal the scale of this recovery. This helmet features intricate metalwork and heavy gilding, demonstrating the wealth and technical skill concentrated in the hands of this proto-Viking aristocracy. By the time the first ships sailed for England, they were carrying the representatives of a hardened, highly organized society forged in the recovery from a climate disaster. Norse society was built on a rigid 3-tier structure. The aristocratic jarls held the highest status, supported by the free land-owning carls. At the base were the thralls, enslaved laborers who performed the intensive work required to sustain the farms. Inheritance customs generally favored the firstborn son, leaving younger brothers with little hope of owning land. As the population grew and arable land reached its limits, these ambitious younger men looked overseas to acquire the silver and social capital needed to secure their own future. The breakthrough that allowed these men to leave Scandinavia was a specific advance in maritime engineering, the clinker-built longship. Shipwrights built the hull by overlapping the edges of thin oak planks and riveting them together with iron. This method allowed the Norse to build vessels that were exceptionally light compared to their size. This skeletal frame allowed the hull to remain flexible, absorbing the energy of the open ocean. Because the construction was so light, the ships required very little water to stay afloat. A longship could survive an Atlantic crossing and then navigate directly into shallow inland river systems, bringing seaborne raiders to the gates of cities hundreds of miles from the coast. The expansion of the Viking Age was the result of land-starved, ambitious youth gaining access to this highly versatile maritime capability. The 793 CE attack on Lindisfarne remains the best-known event of the early Viking Age. The monks were killed, the treasures seized, and the community scattered in a single morning. Lindisfarne Priory was geographically exposed. Its isolated position on the Northumbrian coast made it a perfect target for a rapid amphibious assault that could strike and retreat before local forces could respond. Contemporary scholars like Alcuin of York interpreted the raid as a sign of divine wrath. He wrote to the Bishop of Lindisfarne, suggesting that the sins of the Northumbrian people had called this catastrophe upon them. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle recorded the year 793 as one of terrifying omens, noting immense flashes of lightning and fiery dragons seen flying in the air. Monasteries held a specific economic appeal. They functioned as the primary financial centers of the era, containing high concentrations of portable silver and gold while remaining virtually undefended. These raids provided a reliable method for Norsemen to acquire the wealth required to win and preserve political influence in the competitive social environment of their homeland. Beyond raiding, the Norse established vast economic hubs. Seasonal trading towns like Birka in Sweden and Koppang in Norway became centers where global commodities were exchanged for Scandinavian furs and iron. Their trade routes eventually stretched from the North Atlantic colonies in Iceland down the river systems of the east, connecting the Baltic Sea to the wealth of the Islamic world in Central Asia. Navigating these routes required overcoming immense environmental challenges. Sailors frequently encountered thick fog and the continuous twilight of subarctic summers, which made it impossible to track the sun or stars using traditional means. To find their way, Norse navigators may have used a sunstone, a tool mentioned in the sagas that allowed them to locate the sun's position even in a completely overcast sky. This device likely utilized Iceland spar, a unique type of calcite crystal. Its light polarizing properties allow a navigator to pinpoint the sun's location by comparing the intensity of light passing through the crystal, even in heavy fog. Viking dominance was a product of both military opportunism and a sophisticated understanding of navigation and global trade. The decentralized world of competitive chieftains eventually gave way to unified territorial kingdoms. Ambitious monarchs began to consolidate power, establishing the centralized states of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. These kings used conversion to Christianity as a political strategy. By adopting the faith of their southern neighbors, they could legitimize their rule and form alliances with the powerful Christian kingdoms of continental Europe. The archaeological record shows that the general population integrated these beliefs slowly. This runestone features traditional Norse knotwork surrounding a Christian cross, reflecting a generational blending of old and new ideologies. The transition reached its conclusion when the Norse began using their own maritime technology for defense. By 1070 AD, the people of Roskilde were scuttling their own ships to block sea channels and protect their trading centers from other seaborne raiders. The Viking Age concluded as the Norse transitioned into the centralized, defensive states they once targeted. The legacy of this era is visible in the administrative and legal frameworks of modern Europe. In 930 AD, settlers in Iceland established the Althing at Thingvellir. This was a national assembly where freemen met to resolve disputes and enact laws, creating one of the earliest parliamentary systems in the world. The Norse impact on the English language was similarly profound. The adoption of pronouns like they, them, and their represents a rare instance where a language absorbed the core grammatical structures of a foreign tongue. The legal customs of the Danelaw in northern England left a lasting footprint on the administrative landscape, establishing regional boundaries in Yorkshire that survived into the modern era. The Norse expansion acted as a primary driver of geographic integration. Their legacy of law, language, and technology continues to define modern global structures.